All right, I also want to acknowledge our interpreters tonight. We have again with us Lavona Andrew. And also assisting will be Fran Bennett, who will come up here a little later. Thank you, Fran. And I am Jodi Eichelberger, and I know a number of you are disappointed to see me tonight. Because as you know, I am not hosting tonight's show for the first time in 8 or 9 years. Yeah, thank you for the applause. That's great. So I'll tell you more about that later. But we also want to thank the city of Boise because back a year ago, the mayor of Boise called me up and said, "Hey, Jodi, we would love for Story Night to be the city of Boise's cultural ambassador for the next 2 years." So we are halfway through that. And part of the reason for that is just wanting to celebrate the people who live here in Boise and make Boise a place where it's a city for everyone. And giving an opportunity for people to share their true stories is a part of that vision of making this a great place to live. So we appreciate that. We also want to thank our season sponsor, KiNG. Thank you, KiNG. So yes, tonight's theme is King. We are moving our way around the chessboard. We started with Queen last month. We have King this month. We knew we were doing the 6 chess pieces, but we weren't sure about the order. We decided to do King in December because of an obvious association with the King of Kings, with the 3 wise men. It just seemed to fit this time, end the year with a lot of power if we can. So we chose King as the theme, but there's a lot of different ways to come at the theme. It could be, I'm not a chess player, but I understand if a pawn reaches the other side of the board, it can be transferred into any piece, right? Not the king, though, because the game would be over. So never mind, that's a bad analogy. That just shows how bad my chess playing is. I had a bit of an experience. So I started performing at a very young age. I think I was asked to sing at my grandmother's wedding when I was 4, which sounds insane to me. But then later, I was performing at school plays and everything. And one time I was cast as I think it was called the Great Late Potentate. He was not one of the 3 wise men. He was the 4th wise man, who was famously late, and he arrived in Bethlehem so late that Jesus had already taken off with his family and wasn't there anymore. His name, I don't remember many of the lyrics except that they were trying to name the baby, and one of the lyrics was, "What shall we name the baby? I'm thinking that just maybe we'll call him Casper." And then the kids in the chorus all said, "Casper? What a disaster." Because your future's in your name. I didn't sound like that when I was 10, but so his name was Casper. Being an early performer, I didn't have the stage crew that I have these days. My makeup artist, costumer, moral support, everything was my mom. And she's not here tonight, so I can tell you about this embarrassing story about my mom. So she came up with the costume, which looked fine. The potentate needed to have facial hair, a mustache, and this kind of long Fu Manchu beard. I think she cut up an old ratty wig. And normally you would use spirit gum to adhere facial hair to a face. She didn't have that, so she used maple syrup. So I'm on stage, and there are lights, kind of like this. It's getting warm. I'm delivering lines, but I knew my lines really well. And so I was almost going into autopilot as I got distracted by the smell of pancakes. I thought, gosh, it smells like breakfast. What's going on? And then that smell was joined by the sensation on my skin of hair slipping slowly, very slowly down my face. And as an early performer, actually it's interesting, I almost feel like that internal voice is the same age today as it was back then. It's like the same voice in my head that is saying stuff like, hey, you don't remember that line, or you're not in your light, or whatever it's saying. Well, in this case it was saying, Jodi, you have 2 choices. You can let this beard slip off your face, or you can take control and remove it right now. So deciding between these two things, I was kind of like, well, and I'm still saying my lines during all of this internal monologue. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take control. So I grabbed my facial hair and I just ripped it off and threw it on the floor. And apparently, I had just reached the point in my line where I had found out that Jesus was no longer there. So it looked extremely dramatic. And my next line was, I think the last line was, "What? The Messiah isn't here?" One of my best performances, probably. And then I followed that up with, well, they don't make kings like they used to, which got an even bigger laugh, unlike the groan I got tonight. It's cuter from a little kid. So that was my run as a king. It is a fond memory, and I still enjoy the smell of maple syrup despite the tension created in that performance. So tonight we're going to invite you to enter your name into the slammer booth over here for your king story. It could be you played a king, you were under a king's rule, maybe you made your way across the chessboard and had a total transformation. Maybe you feel like you're over other people, or you had a brief quest for power and succeeded for a moment, got to hold the scepter. Whatever that story might be, bring it to us tonight. The structure of the show is that we have some featured storytellers we've worked with in advance, and then we intermix that with stories from you, brought up in the slammer booth there. We have some spontaneous excitement happening tonight, which Neil and I are going to work with right away. Neil, we have a story salon in preparation for this show, which is a peer review that the three storytellers get to share their stories together and comment and everything. So George and Neil and I were able to get together and share each other's stories. And unfortunately, Laurel arrived tonight, but she injured her knee and was not able to stay. And so she's not going to be able to share her story tonight. So I know you have a special song you're planning to perform before intermission, and it's possible that the host may ask if you might precede that song with maybe a couple other songs. Maybe it would last as long as a featured story. All right. Well, he'll work with you on that. So the real mystery is that I am not staying tonight because I'm in another production that's across town. Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along. Oh, are you clapping because you've already seen the show? Is that what that? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So the other actors are already getting into costume and getting ready for the show, and I'm going to be crashing in right before the show starts. And maybe I'll wear this in my first scene. I don't know. We'll see if I have time to get in my costume. That is Alley Repertory Theater, and there are 2 more performances left, and there's just a few tickets left for each of those shows. So if you haven't had a chance to see Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along, we have tomorrow night, and then Saturday night is our closing night, and so I would love for you to snag those tickets and see that show. I have some extra seats set up. I'm gonna, I guess, kick that one off the stage as I leave, because tonight it's gonna be kind of special for a couple of reasons. One is our spontaneous filling of hopefully many slammers who fill up the tickets on the slammer booth. But I've said this a couple of times. I was thinking, like, who am I going to ask to take my place on stage for the show King? And one of the wisest men I know is in our community, a voice for our community. Certainly, he's been a storyteller here before, and ironically told a story about how he worked as a security guard for an Elvis concert. So he already was a shoo-in for this, and he's a big friend of Story Night, and I know that you are going to be in good hands and definitely in good voice this evening. Please welcome your host for this evening, George Prentice.
I was about to say good morning. Hi. One of us is probably wondering, what is this guy from radio doing up here, and one of us is terrified. That would be me. I mean, how could you not be a fan of Story Night? Right? The very first one I think I ever went to was at the Linen Building, and I remember it was the day after Christmas. I think that was the thing to do, right? And I also remember that they were just the side of breaking the fire code, and people would have to wait for individuals to come out for another to go in, and couples were literally separated. That's how good the show was. Okay, so George, tell your story. So I'm going to talk about who I thought the king of television was. I know that's not my medium. Now, for many people, I think it's fair to say that the king was Johnny Carson. Right? I mean, even books about him, I think there's a book that says King of the Night. Well, the king for me was and is David Letterman. Oh, golly. Thank you. I'm among friends. It is an acquired taste. It is, right? It's a single malt scotch as opposed to a brandy. But I was a fan of David Letterman long before he was David Letterman. So we know that he hosted the late night, right, with David Letterman on NBC after Johnny Carson, and then of course he went over to CBS, The Late Show with David Letterman, won every award possible, and then retired with great fanfare. But I was a huge fan of him before that. He was just a stand-up comic, this acerbic wit. And like most comics, you know, you'd see him on the occasional game show, etc. But I thought he was pretty great when he would come out and do his bit on The Tonight Show. So this is quite some time ago. This is the early 1980s. And my friends and I, there were three of us, we would go to New York often because we were young and you could afford to go to New York in the early 80s. We'd stay in a youth hostel, and it was just debauchery. We were up all night just drinking way too much, going to midnight movies. And so one day, just before we go, I say, I've got tickets. And they said, oh my gosh, to SNL? And I said, no, to the David Letterman show. Long pause. It's like, who is David Letterman? Now, NBC was not going to give David Letterman a late night show out of the gate. And few people may remember this, but David Letterman actually hosted a network show during the day. It was live on NBC in the morning, no less. It was a 90-minute show at 10 a.m., opposite game shows and soap operas. So imagine, this nuttiness that he would do at night during the day. But I thought it was great. And I said, no, it's tickets to the David Letterman show. And they're thinking, okay, yeah, we'll go before dinner or, after dinner. I said, no, it's in the morning. It's like, George, we're never going to do this. And it's like, yes, no, we have to do this. Do it for me. And of course, it was at NBC at 30 Rock. So we go to New York, and yes, we're out all night. And we were just drinking our faces off, just shot after shot, because at a certain age, you could just do that. And so, but you have to get in line to the show, right, at 30 Rock. And they would line us up outside the building before we go in, and most people are fresh. We were wearing our clothes from, right, a day and a half ago. We were just reeking of alcohol. We were still drunk. And so I think one of us was leaning against the building. But anyway, production assistants from the David Letterman show, much like other shows, sometimes go out into the line of the people waiting to get in the audience. They're just looking for little bits, little pieces of comedy. Oh, who's in the crowd? Here's something that we could turn into something. And this production assistant is weaving her way through the crowd, and she circles back to us a couple of times. Okay, so I was young, and I was very drunk. And I really didn't know how to flirt. I still don't know how to flirt. But she said, "Oh, you guys, you seem funny. You seem, like, would you like to be in a skit on the show today?" And my friends are like, "No." It's like, he dragged us here. We don't even know who David Letterman is. And she said, "Would you like to be on the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I'll be in this skit." She said, "Okay, so here." We were thinking about doing a takeoff on Dear Abby. Do you know who Dear Abby is? I said, yeah. Dear Abby, the advice columnist. Yeah, we're going to have this comedian dress up like Dear Abby. She's going to talk like her. It's going to be goofy, and her and Dave are going to do a couple jokes. And we need someone with a problem. And she said, the production assistant said, what would you ask? Okay. So I didn't know how to flirt, but I said, well, I would ask Dear Abby how I could get a date with a production assistant. I swear taxi cabs stopped, for miles. The production assistant just we locked eyes, and she was tapping a pencil to her lips. Way too much silence. And again, I'm pretty bombed. And she said, how can we reword that? And I'm starting to shrink. And she said, I know, why don't you ask her how you can't get a date with anybody? My friends are dying. And the rest of the people waiting to get into the audience is like, this is better than the show. This is really great. So she said, follow me. So I was separated from my friends. And she led me up, a side entrance through security up to, I forget what floor. It's where they do the Tonight Show now. And it's like I'm getting a little excited, but I was forgetting about what was about to happen. There was just so much energy. So I'm backstage at the David Letterman show. I'm at NBC. I'm at 30 Rock, separated from my friends, and eventually they lead the audience in, and they sit up in the seats. And I'm backstage as the guests are coming and going, and there's the band, and there was Howard Shore was the music director, or young Paul Schaefer was in the band. It was very cool. And the production assistant is hovering, and she said, "You okay?" It's like, yeah. She goes, "Now remember what we said you were gonna ask." It's like, yeah. So it was a 90-minute show. So a guest would come in and they'd go out, and a guest would come in and they'd go out. And the production assistant came up to me and said, "Well, we may have to bump this." And I'm thinking, thank God. Another half hour, we might get cut, it might not get cut. It's like, oh, thank God. So she comes and she says, "Okay, we're going to do it." And she said, "You all set?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Okay, we're going to place you right here. We're going to stand you in front of the audience." And Dave and this actress, and the actress was an actress by the name of Edie McClurg. You would recognize her. Remember, she was the secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She was the rental car agent in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Right, so she was, and they're doing their little bits. And the lights are like a rack of lights, like a baseball field. And it's like, and I am beginning to sober up. I like really fast. I've skipped the headache and it's like and I am sweating profusely. And for some reason I was wearing a wool jacket. It was just awful. And the one thing I remember, the biggest thing I remember, is my eyebrows would not stop moving. They were like just constant twitching. It was like as if they had their own batteries in them. So they're doing their little, whoop-de-doo, comedy bit here, and it's like, okay, and it's, some of the jokes are landing, and Dave says, oh, well, we have someone right here, what's your issue? Camera on, coast to coast, live on the National Broadcasting Corporation, just me. Hi, Mandy. I seem to be having a little trouble finding the right girl. Letterman says, well, we can all certainly see why. And the eyebrows won't stop. And the Dear Abby impersonator's like, oh, David, stop it. And I go, I just, you should, hang out outside of nunneries for rejects. And it was just It was just awful, and the eyebrows won't stop moving. So it was a bit, but it was live. It was live. So the chance of anyone seeing this, other than the people who are watching this live, was pretty small, right? So I thought, okay, no one's going to see this ever. Other than the people who, and the show wasn't that popular. Okay, bring it down. So, young David Letterman, here we go. There he is. Dave's like, oh, well, we can all certainly see why. Okay, stop it, Dave. Stop teasing this young man. And the eyebrows won't stop. One of my friends, had called home, and very few people owned VCRs at the time. And he said, Mom, roll tape on NBC. So, yeah. Now, this is between us, right? I kept this videotape. No one. This is a moment. So yeah, I was on the David Letterman show. No guesses on how old I was. Or Dave. He looks pretty young there too, but we all were. Anyway, so that's my story. You are too kind. Let's get that out of here. Okay, so slammers. Now, feel free, we have a slammer booth over here. Anything, any good story, right? Because kings can be anything in our lives, right? So, what do you say we get our first slammer up here, okay? So, we're going to get the slammer tickets, okay? I'm going to call someone's name. Here we go. Let's do this. Okay. Okay, Zoe. Come on. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Zoe, what do we need to know about you?
Ooh.
Don't tell not your story, but what do we need to know about you? Are you from Boise? Where's home? Yeah.
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Yes.
Yeah.
I live on 10th, like up the street.
Oh my gosh, brothers, sisters?
I am an only child.
Okay. And you how do you spend your days? You're a student?
I graduated 2 years ago from a school in California, and I just moved to Seattle.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody's gonna be like, why?
And you're here for the holidays?
I am.
Oh my gosh.
My mom has COVID though. So I'm staying with my dear friends, Lily and Sophie, and their mom, Kat.
Okay. So the rule is, and there's not too many rules here, but maybe about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. I might, hover at about the 5-minute mark. Neil might, play like strum a couple notes, but are you good with that?
I am.
Are you pretty good at that?
I think so.
Okay. Oh, how are you doing with this microphone?
I feel pretty good as long
Okay.
as I'm heard.
Yeah? Okay. Don't be shy
Okay.
as far as getting close to it.
Okay, well.
Okay?
Yeah. Should I get close?
No, you can't.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Zoe.
Hi. I actually have two stories that I've been flip-flopping in my brain because I didn't expect that this would happen. I'm going to give you two keywords and then you guys get to vote, yeah? New Year's, Joshua Tree. Okay. Okay, so this is the story of the king of my heart, my dad. My dad, remarkable guy. Sorry, I'm hearing my own voice and it's throwing me off. My dad has I like to say that he had a retired jersey from the University of Indiana because Larry Bird had it after him. Just to give you the idea of the kind of guy he was. He was my best friend, and he sadly passed away in 2016. And in a world away, Cambodia, he was traveling and lost his battle with his depression. So my mom and I decided that we wanted to bury him in Joshua Tree. And to give you some backstory, layers, a very clear memory that I have of him was getting into his car when he was picking me up from a friend's house, and he looked me in the eyes and said, "Today was the day you were conceived." Great, thank you, hello. And he said, "It's because of this." He was a triathlon athlete, always loved extending himself to the best that he could, but my mom and him were struggling to have me because of his testosterone levels. And what happened is he was riding his bike on a very flat road and just fell over and broke his wrist and had to get 13 screws in his wrist. But that was the recovery that was necessary in order for me to be here. So he was a lifetime mountain, like what didn't this guy do? He was an athlete, mountain climber, spent 13 years in the mountain before he went to law school and met my mom, and loved Joshua Tree. So that felt like a right place to kind of lay him to, may or may not have led him to rest. And we take this trip. I have his ashes in a trash bag on my back, hiking through the mountains, and found this space overlooking a beautiful valley, and it's a cliff edge. The only patch of dirt is on this cliff edge where I had to jump over a crevice maybe this wide to get to. I was a very daring teenager, apparently. And I opened the trash bag, and the first thing that I saw was a bone with 13 screws on it. And felt, whatever you believe in, a very strong presence of love and support and accomplishment in that moment. So, thank you. That's my story.
Zoe, before you sit down, can I just ask you to just visit the booth over here?
I was given these instructions.
Okay. Oh my gosh, right? Zoe, wow, right? Yeah. You're her friends? Thank you for being her friend. Yeah, okay, I'm just a little back on my heels right now. So, okay, and here's something I don't do often. It's a commercial. But it is about our sponsor. Our theme, of course, is King, the regal, and what that king represents on the chessboard. The rest of the pieces, of course, scrambling all around the pawns and the rooks, but the king is without him, game over. So what is the king in your world, in your business's world? At Keenly, they know your business is king, your people, your mission, and that deserves nothing but the best. And at Keenly, they rethink the playbook to protect what matters most: clearing the obstacles, creating programs that actually work for your team, like innovative health plans. When it comes to benefits, they don't just play the game. At Keenly, they make sure you're winning it. Just like moving the piece on a chessboard. It is your move to make it keenly. So a big thank you to our season sponsor, Keenly. How about some music? We have heard some amazing Neil Diamond songs so far, but there is one, a duet.
I don't think she's here yet.
Okay, you don't think she's here yet?
I think we're about 15 minutes early, but I can certainly do.
Well, okay, then
do it now.
just put a holder. No, here she is. Come on up here,
Oh, she is here.
Lita.
My mic's down.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Miss Lita Newstadter, the elegant, gorgeous queen to my king.
What a treat. How are you? Happy holidays. Okay, duet, right? Do you know what we're? Do you know?
You're going to sing on that one, I think.
Do you know what song this might be?
Well, I mentioned my trilogy earlier, all right?
Okay.
We started with A New Hope. This is my Empire Strikes Back. It's a Star Wars reference, people. Come on. You don't know Star Wars? I don't know Star Wars. This is a showstopper every night, darling. Simply because you crush it. I'm sure you'll all know this one if you're over 40. Whoop. You gotta turn it up back there.
You don't bring me flowers. You don't sing me love songs.
You hardly talk to me anymore when you come through the door at the end of the day.
I remember when you couldn't wait to love me. You used to hate to leave me. But now, after loving me late at night,
Well, it's good for you, babe, and you're feeling alright.
while you just roll over and turn out the light. You don't bring me flowers anymore.
I'm sorry. 1,000 times I've said I'm sorry. It used to be so natural
Used to
talk about forever. But used to be's don't count anymore. They just lay on the floor till we sweep them away.
Baby, I remember all the things you taught me.
And I learned how to laugh, and I learned how to cry.
Well, I learned how to love, and I learned how to lie.
So you think I could learn how?
You think I could learn how to tell you goodbye. You don't bring me flowers anymore. You think I could learn how to tell you goodbye.
You don't say you need me.
You don't sing me love songs. You don't bring me flowers anymore.
My queen. My queen. Lena Neustadt, ladies and gentlemen, Boise's finest. Go see her, Soul Cats. Shakespeare Festival, Lizzie. The Afro radio show, everything.
Wow.
She's amazing. It's an honor.
And then
every
some.
time.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. I want you to consider drifting over here to the booth, right? Everybody has a story. We're all friends. Consider that for a moment. Also, refresh your drinks, right? And visit our friends Jess and Annie from the Wasmouth Center. Stories at the Center program out in the hallway. It's a free community story exchange. It begins January 6th and runs throughout the spring. And so, bathroom break, get some drinks, hit the slam booth. Back here in about, 10, 15 minutes? What do you say? Thank you. Okay, welcome back. How are we doing? Nice. Not too late to sign up for the slam. So we've got a number of names in the hat, but we don't have yours. You are among friends. Every story is important, okay? Let's start off our second half with Neil Diamond. Ladies and gentlemen.
Of course, the battery's dying again. Those Duracells just aren't what they used to be, George. You all will know this song because it is one of my ultimate stories that I've told about this great nation that we live in. And it should be playing. Oh, about this great nation we live in. And I'll say, turn it up. There we go, yes. Push the limits of the sound barrier here at Jump. Jack's urban meeting place. It's got the power of a king. Only in America, ladies and gentlemen, only in America. Thank you. Been traveling far without a home, not without a star. I told you I'm Jewish. Free, only want to be free. We huddle close, hang on to your dream. On the boats and on the planes, you're coming to America, never looking back again. They're coming to America. Home seems so far away. Oh, we're traveling light today in the eye of the storm, in the eye of the storm. Home to a new and shiny place. Make our bed and we'll say our grace. Freedom's lights burning warm. Freedom's lights burning warm. How you feeling, Story Night? Everywhere around the world, they're coming to America.
Every time that flags unfurl, they come into America. With the bolts down the bow. Shit, they come. I told you I hadn't written this yet. Never looking back again. Shit, they come into America. They come into America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America today. Sing it with me. Today. I can't hear you, people. Ah, that's more like it. One more time. Today. One more time. Today. My country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, you can sing today. Of thee I sing, of thee I sing today. One more with passion, people. One more. Mine's the last one. America.
I think it's fair to say that there is an Neil Diamond's anthem, right?
Yeah.
Which you're going to share with us now.
Yes,
right.
if anything.
This is the definitive song.
This next song is my greatest story told.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's do it.
And by us, I mean you.
Okay. Thank you, George. Devoted, beautiful Neil Diamond fan for many, many years. George Prentice, ladies and gentlemen. I'd be honored to have him on any stage with me. Well, the LA's fine, the sun shines most of the time. And the feeling is laid back. The palm trees grow and the rents are low. But you know I keep thinking about making my way back. Well, I'm New York City born and raised, but nowadays I'm lost between two shores. Well, LA's fine, but it ain't home, and New York's home, but it ain't mine no more. I am, I said, to no one there. And no one heard at all, not even the chair. I am, I cried. I am, said I. And I am lost, and I can't even say why. That's right. Leaving me lonely still. It's an important part. Thank you with the light. Did you ever dream about the frog who dreamed of being a king? And then became one. Except for the names and a few other changes. If you talk about me, well, the story's the same one. Well, I've got an emptiness deep inside, and I try, but it won't let me go. Now, I'm not a man who likes to swear, but I never cared for the sound of being alone. I am, I said, to no one there, but you're all right here in front of me. And no one heard at all, not even that chair. It's Elijah, we know this is Judas. I am, I cried. I am, said I. Thank you so much, Boise. Thank you, Story Night. Thank you, Jodi and George and everybody. Thanks so much. You're all beautiful.
Wow. Well, there's a lot more to come, but we do have a bit of a surprise right now. We do. Our next featured storyteller, ladies and gentlemen, is Guy Findlay.
Who's Guy Findlay?
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Guy Findlay.
That's right. I'm Guy Findlay. Oh, yeah. Well, George, let me slip into something a little bit more comfortable. I mean, this sparkly shirt, it just typifies Neil Diamond. So I'm just gonna take something off here, if you don't mind, and get a little bit more comfortable.
Oh, give me a break.
This is my sparkly noir. The ladies love it. Oh, that's right. Well, it wouldn't be Guy Findlay without the wig. I've never done this in front of an audience before. I don't know if you want to hold this, my friend. I'll set it on the chair in honor. How about that? I joke there's a CSI experiment in there somewhere, and don't frame me for murder. All right. Wow, I literally have never done that in front of a crowd because of the gasps and the shock, and I don't want to ruin a bunch of beautiful women's nights. So my name is Guy Findlay. I do live here in Boise. I've lived here for 20 years. My wife is from here. My father-in-law is a pillar of the community and started Idaho Cardiology, and I love Boise. I'm so happy to be here. But the reason why I was invited is because that song has that classic line. You ever hear about the frog who dreamed of being a king and then became one? I mean, that's kind of my story. And not just as Neil Diamond, right? That's kind of my personal story. So I moved here in 1992. I came here for a family reunion. And at the time, there was a Ramada Inn right across from BSU. And I sat in with the band because the singer didn't show up, and I got them through the gig. My family saw me play. I was 19 years old. And I was like, wow, this is a great place to live. Now, bear in mind, I'm in a reggae band in New York City. 5 of us are living in a 1-bedroom apartment on 13th Street. We're doing Nashville-style touring, which was Wednesday through Saturday, right? So you get home by Sunday, you have a couple days at home. And I was making $150 cash a week. A week. Now, room and board paid for, right? It was kind of communal living. It's a reggae band, right? Do the math. But the idea was, I came here to Boise. I did that gig and sat in. They gave me $100. I was like, you guys are getting $100 for this poolside gig with people, right? Free food, free beer, which I was like, you get free beer? And they said, oh yeah, we shorted you. We actually all made $150, but we don't know you, so we only gave you $100. I was like, thank you for the honesty, gentlemen. I'm coming back. So anyways, I then moved here to Boise, fresh out of NYU. I was on my way to be a lawyer. That was my mom's dream and inspiration, right? President, and then smoke some pot, and it's like, maybe you can be a judge. Oh, I might have taken a hallucinogen. All right, maybe you can be a lawyer. That's the way it was in the old days. You'd get fried for anything, right? But she was the one who actually was like, you know what, do it. I was like, I think I'm gonna go out and try to start writing some songs and be a musician. And she said, look, you'll be 35 with a mortgage and 2 kids before you know it. Go have fun. Remember what you really want to do and who you really are and want to be. She's like, that's all that really matters. Well, I wanted to be a king. I wanted to be king of the world well before Titanic. So I moved here and started playing music, but it's really here that the dream to be a signed artist fomented and brewed and grew. Was straight out of Boise. I lived in New York and I'd lived in LA and I'd lived all over, but I really had never thought of like, maybe I could be that guy. Maybe I could be Ringo. And then I wrote a few songs. Maybe I'll be George. But the bottom line is I started dreaming here in the North End. I met a fabulous singer here in town who was just so talented and so amazingly God-gifted. I was like, you're the dude. He had a friend from Elko, Nevada, that had moved to New York and was already kind of plotting, and we started trading tapes back and forth because there really wasn't an internet, so to speak. It was still the You've Got Mail days. And we started plotting and writing music and started thinking about this band and who we were going to be and developing our identity. But it was all centered around, we wanted to make art. We wanted to make great art that scaled and was accessible by everybody. Timeless art was really where we are. And you're like, what? That was your KiNG dream? Well, you can't really wish for a hit, right? If you wish for a hit and you wish for the money, you end up like Milli or Vanilli, whichever one was hanging in Germany. God, sorry for his soul. But the reality is you have to have integrity in order to make it. There's a dime a dozen of people that will sell their soul and just do whatever somebody says. But when you really make art and you live for that art and you dream of being that king of art in that space, it's really heavy. And it's something you have to make a ton of sacrifices for, and everybody on board has to be together. So that's what was also odd. So the singer and I, we drove to LA, sold my classic 2002 that was treated with the Hurlis brothers like a gold. Right? So I got like triple the value that I bought it from them from, which was like, yes, thank you, Boise. So we sold the car, and that was the seed money to go to New York. Now we have to meet the other half of the band, and the band is like a marriage, right? So we've only traded some notes. We've talked a little bit on the phone, but the first thing that we do, we land at JFK. We all get into Steve's van. Steve was the lead guitar player. He drove the van. That was his big responsibility. The first thing that we do, we go do a photo shoot. Right? And I was like, this is like no band I've ever been in, like no experience I've ever been in, but I'm here, I'm engaged. And 4 days later, we had our first gig booked, and it happened to have been leap year of 1992, February 29th. Because we knew 1 week later we had the real gig with all the people that we had invited saying, hey, this is our new band, and we're gonna take the East Village of New York City by storm. Well, that photo shoot was spectacular. David Ranella, fashion photographer. I met so many people along the way that were so influential, so amazing. And being a band in New York, it's one thing. I was in Hoi Polloi here. I was in Roche. I played with everybody from the Heaters to Tauji and Faulkner. And, it's really incredible to plot and plan a path and a vision and then execute it over a course of years. That plan was developed here. And the fortune that you have, it's the universe unfolds, and it certainly guides you, and you have to be able to turn left every once in a while, or else you may not make it to that end. But all I tried to do was ensure that we had the best shot at quote unquote making it. And I was the money guy, I was the business guy, so I did all the deals and I did wish for I was like, we need a $2 million record deal. That was my goal. Right? Because if they spend $2 million on us, they're not going to drop us. Right? Wrong. They spent $2.5 million and they still dropped us. But that didn't matter because it wasn't my goal. The goal wasn't to have a hit record. And they said we were 5 deep, and it's, the planets have to align. It's a perfect storm of so many things for things to happen and to really truly have a hit, and you really find this out. It's even harder now. This is the old music business. It all changed in the late 90s. But the reality is it takes that kingly vision, it takes a dream, it takes persistence, it takes a team, right? And it takes a ton of hard work. And just as I do with Neil Diamond, I always say lead with light, lead with love, and let the music speak for itself. That's how we present every show. That's how I presented every show. As a professional musician, and I'm basically here to say I am the king. I did make it, and that's testimony by my beautiful wife, my 2 amazing children, and the beautiful, gorgeous community that we have here in Boise, Idaho. So that's my story.
Bravo, Guy Finley. Let's bring that hat back up on stage.
I'm gonna put the hair back on.
Really?
Yeah, because I want to do one more, right?
Oh yeah. Let's get another guest slammer. Here we go.
I'm available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, and private parties. If anybody wants a Neil Diamond to show up, this suit travels.
By the way, I'm joking. Sorry.
step away from the microphone. Yes, okay. I think it's Lou. The last name is Landry. Yes? Here we go. Little encouragement. This is nice. How are you?
Good.
Okay. How's that? I need you to get a little closer.
That's excellent.
Okay. Lou, what should we know about you?
Let's see. I live in Boise.
Okay.
Have for about 25 years.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What brought you to Boise?
Touring all through the West through a series of sort of happenings.
Okay.
And ended up in Boise.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Here's Lou.
Actually, it occurred once that I took a freight train to Boise from Portland and slept in the cemetery and was rousted out by the police. That was not okay to sleep in the cemetery. But so the story starts out in Miami. We're not going to go through that long traverse, but in 1966, I was in college, Pomona College in Claremont, California, a little bit outside of LA. So a long way from home, and certainly a long way from cash. My folks didn't have a lot of money. I was very lucky to have a football scholarship to I don't even know what league we played in, but the college had made a major mistake giving me a football scholarship. So my folks had to pay $50 a month to go to a very expensive college. So I was very, very lucky. And I never asked for money. So the weekends could be long, and in football, I met a guy named Pat Gillespie, and he was the third string quarterback, but always scheming for fun. And I was not much of a fun guy, but I had nothing better to do on a weekend than to join Pat Gillespie to take a freight train up to San Francisco. That was back in the day when we were kind of infatuated with Jack Kerouac being on the road. So we went to the Army-Navy store and got 2 used down-filled Army sleeping bags that were well used. And by down-filled, that was an exaggeration, because when you were in them, you had more down coming out on your body than was in the bag keeping you warm. So we got a ride from somebody at school, and by the way, this is how mighty we were. We were on a football team whose mascot was not the Trojans or the Vandals or the Gothics or the Goths. We were the mighty Sage Hens. That was our mascot. That put the fear in the other team. So the Sage Hens, 2 of the Sage Hens, took to the road, and they dropped us off, and certainly, thank God, not in LA, because that would not be fine. They dropped us off at Oxnard, which is up the coast, and where the rail yard was. And we were really new to this freighting thing to know where rail yards were and what they were. But we had our sleeping bags and we were ready. And so we slept that night by the track. Hadn't found the hobo village, which there were some. But we were there by the track. And then we did some scouting. And basically the scouting was, which way was that train going? Was that going to San Francisco? That's the one we wanted. So, before daybreak, we got on this flat car. And the flat car had 2 huge transformers, industrial type, strapped to it. And you only get on, at least at our level, the stagehand level, you only get on a train that's stopped. You don't get on a moving train. That's amputation time. So we got on a stopped train and got behind this transformer, got in our bags, and before long, the train starts slowly to go up the coast. And Amtrak makes that run too. And if you ever want a magnificent train ride, that is one, because the track is just yards away from the ocean in some places. So we're on the train, it's morning, it's going to be morning, it's still dark, and we take off and finally get some speed. And the first lesson you learn is that the freight cars don't have shock absorbers. It's really, really bouncy and painful. And luckily, there was a divine intervention, and the train pulled off on a siding for a short time. And this spot, the sun was coming up, and the waves were breaking just lightly, almost in iridescence. It was so magnificent. Now they pull off on a siding, waiting for a faster priority freight to go through. Didn't know that at the time. So we got off and stretched these sore bodies. The morning is so gorgeous. You can smell the ocean, and you can see the waves breaking, and you can hear it, and it's pretty quiet. And then as we're walking just around stretching, we hear ding-a-ling-ling-ling-ling-ling, ding-a-ling-ling-ling-ling, ding-a-ling-ling-ling-ling. And it was like, what is this? Being inexperienced in the freight world. So we walked around, and there was this other transformer. And when we got to the other side, there was a hobo. And he was rolling up his newspapers and rags that he used for a sleeping bag, and was turning off his alarm clock. And he saw us and our quizzical looks, and he said, "When I'm on the road, I like to stay regular." And so my story is about the king of the road. And the life lesson for me was that no matter what situation, you can be regular and disciplined and be your own king of the road.
Lou, if you can just visit the booth. Thank you so much. Let's keep this going. Can I get the hat back? Let's do another one. I know we're tempting the gods. This is pretty great tonight. This is wonderful. And thank you for those who put your name in. So the name on here is Tommy L. Tommy L. Tommy? Little encouragement here for Tommy. Hi. Is that an okay? How's that?
Can you all hear me all right?
Yep.
All right.
Tommy, what do we need to know about you? Where's home?
Home is Boise. Home is where the heart is, with my wife in the crowd there.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Jesse, thanks for encouraging me to come up here.
Okay, Jesse. Tommy, did you grow up? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small state on the West Coast. But what matters now is that I've been here for about 10 years, went to Boise State, graduated Boise State University in 2017, and got grandfathered in by that lovely lady down there.
Okay. Here's Tommy L.
Thanks, guys. Well, I really didn't expect to be up here on stage tonight, so this is going to be interesting for me, and hopefully all of you. So this is a story about being king of the shower. I know where all of your minds are going. Get your heads out of the gutter. This is about being king of the shower and being king anywhere you want to be and growing confidence, primarily through my story being a story about karaoke. My first time doing karaoke, actually. A pastime I'm now obsessed with. I do every minute I can, but primarily in the shower. So I also wanted to just shout out Guy because I didn't expect to be up here, but when Guy, I found out that he was Jewish, I thought, well, what a great opportunity to connect with a fellow Jew. It's Hanukkah and the spirit. So shout out to all of my Jews out there. Thank you. I'm actually, that's a complete lie. I'm not even Jewish. I was raised Catholic, baptized in the church, confirmed. So people would call me, my dad is Jewish though, so some people would call me a cashew, a Catholic Jew, or a casual Jew, if you will. So in the spirit of the Star of David touching me tonight, I figured I'd come up on stage. So this story starts when Jessie, my wife, and myself and a couple of friends, we start out on a cold night and we make our way downtown. We're feeling pretty hungry and we think, well, it sounds like a great night for 10-barrel. 10-barrel nachos, a couple of beers, a couple of laughs, and what else could be better than that, right? So we show up, and you ever have that feeling when you walk into a restaurant on a Saturday night, you open those doors, you make eye contact with the hostess, and you look around and you just see all those people at those tables and you think, uh-oh, there's no shot I'm getting a seat tonight. It's one of the worst feelings ever. So we walk up, we put our name in, say, how long is it gonna be for a party of 4? And she says, about an hour. I think, uh-oh, this is way too long to wait for a table. But in the spirit of not really wanting to walk anywhere else, I put my name down and I thought, well, Mad Swede has beer. We can go right next door and grab a pint, have some laughs, and what do you say? It looks like they're having karaoke. I had never done karaoke before. My friends really didn't want to do karaoke. There was nobody there to listen to us do karaoke. It was a perfect storm, right? So I sign up, I think, God, what am I gonna sing? I've been singing a lot of Tommy Two-Tone in the car lately. Anyone know that song? 867-5309, right? Jenny, I've got your number. I need to make you mine. Jenny, don't change your number. 867-5309. 867-5309. 67539. So, thank you. So I roll up, my name gets called, I do the karaoke, party rolls in, everyone starts singing in the crowd, and I think this is the greatest moment of my life. Other than being at Jack's Urban Meeting Place singing in front of a crowd a cappella. It's just like the Madison Square Garden, I'll tell you. So I'm singing, the gig's up, I do my thing, my adrenaline's pumping, our table gets called a 10-barrel, it's the perfect night. And I think, I gotta do that again. I gotta go start doing karaoke. Who can I call on my phone? I start dialing 867-5309. Who's gonna do karaoke with me? A couple weekends later, I find myself at Overland Bar. Oh yeah. Overland Bar. So I sign up, it's been quite a night. People are going up left and right. It's been about an hour wait time, and I get up there on stage and I think, I don't know what I'm gonna sing. I had signed my name up for Super Freak. I don't know the lyrics to Super Freak. I just thought it would be a great song to get the crowd going. So I'm up there and I'm thinking, this is gonna be great. I get on stage and the music starts going and it's way too fast. It is so freaking fast. It's as fast as my heart's pumping in front of all of you right now. 140 BPM. And I start singing, Super Freak, she's a very freaking girl. The type you want to, mama. And I start going downhill. I cut it early. This song is 5 minutes, way too long. It feels like I'm up here for months. That walk home, the 5 blocks home, was the longest walk of my life. I've since recovered from that karaoke foray. I've since done a couple more gigs. You all can see me at Terry's every now and then. 44 Club, shout out State Street. But I think the moral of the story, and the reason I wanted to come up here, is because no matter how well you do on stage, no matter how well you might not do, you can always be the king of the shower.
Tommy L. So mysterious. Really good, don't you think? That was really good. Another one? Yes? Let's bring the hat back up. We're doing great. Lots of names. The bar is pretty high. And by bar, I mean where we're all going. And, okay. Okay, Patty. Patty, let's do it. Patty. Really? Oh my gosh.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, you want to be close here.
Okay.
Okay, Patty,
Got
what
it.
do we need to, so where's home for you?
Here now.
And where did you grow up?
Oh, it's a long story.
Where were you born?
I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and we escaped, and I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Wow, love it. Okay, here comes Patty.
Okay, thanks. I don't know what possessed me to put my name in there, because I was sitting there hoping there were a lot of names and I wasn't going to get called. But 2 little short, maybe not so short, but KiNG stories. When I was little, which was a really long time, I'm still short, but when I was little, I used to lip sync to records. We called it pantomime then, now we call it lip syncing. And I was a budding actress, and I performed for the USO at Army Hospital. And I did All I Want for Christmas Is My 2 Front Teeth. And I chewed blackjack gum and blacked out my teeth so that it would look, yeah. Anyway, Nat King Cole was also performing there. And I have an autographed picture from Nat King Cole saying, "To Patricia, a very talented performer." So I decided I'd be a Broadway star. But they don't lip sync. So I tried. I moved to New York from Miami because I hated Florida. I don't like humidity. I moved to New York. I auditioned for shows. I got a couple of tours, nothing on Broadway, but tours. I met a lot of people, a couple of whom were stars, one of whom I married. But he was 35 years older than I. So needless to say, that didn't work out very well. But his career brought us to California. And after we were separated, I got involved in community theater in California. And I auditioned for a play called Showboat, really old show. And this fellow who had been cast as the lead came up to me afterwards and said, "Did you ever play Meg Brocky in Brigadoon? You'd be perfect for that." And I said, "Yeah, in college." But anyway, we went out for a drink. And less than a year later, we were married. So this King story is really about my late husband, who passed in February, who was the king of looping. Now, how many of you know what looping is? That's what I thought. In movies and television, when there's a crowd scene, the microphones are only on for the actors, but there might be other actors walking around saying things. So after the movie is made, they go into post-production, and a group of actors who are very good at improvisation are called on to put voices to those people who were not mic'd. And it was called looping because they looped it into a tape. But of course, now everything's digital, but they still call it looping. And he was a struggling actor, and I was in real estate at the time and thought I'd probably have to support him forever. But I didn't care because he made me laugh. He treated me like a queen. He loved me with all his heart. And he became the king of loopers. He became a director of all these voiceover sessions. Some of his more notable ones, I'll start with something tame. In Air Force One, the voice that said, "We have the president," that was my husband. In Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, when he crashed into this big bird that was the mascot for the ball team, they said, "The bird needs to say something when he crashes into it." And so the director said, "Greg, what would you say?" And he said, "Yeah, blow me." And that was left in the movie, and that's one of his more famous voiceover lines. And he would come home and tell me some of the stories, but when he passed away, our boys and I went to California to have a celebration of his life, and the looping group that he worked with had one of their own that we went to. And I heard stories that I said, I was married to the man for 42 years. How did I never hear these stories? Like at one of their breaks, he fell asleep. Well, he was famous for falling asleep. They always brought food, snack food, to the set, to the sound stage. And they made, he had a hairline like, yeah, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Both of our boys have the same haircut. Anyway, I found out at this celebration of his life that he fell asleep, and they took the pastrami from their snack table and made a wig for him. He never told me that story. I'd say, "How was your work today?" And he'd say, "Oh, it was great." But he was the king of loopers, and he was my king because he treated me like a queen. And he'll live in my heart forever. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry, but that's my story.
Thank you. Stories come from the land as well as its people. I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Shoshone-Bannock people. Thank you to our season sponsor, KiNG. Story Night, supported by public funding for the arts through the Idaho Commission on the Arts, the Idaho Legislature. And the National Endowment for the Arts. We also receive funding from the Boise City Department of Arts and History. And we're reminded we can listen to podcasts from the shows or see the flagship show on a YouTube channel. We also have a radio show. Radio, really? My goodness. Story Night on Stray Theater, which you can hear on the Sunday before our live show from 5:30 to 6 on Radio Boise. Thank you to our crew, our technical director, podcast and video engineer, Stephen Baldessari. Stephen, thank you so very much. Thank you to our interpreters, LaVonna Andrew and Fran Bennett. Thank you to our photographer, Christina Birkenbein. You'll find her photographs from tonight in the album on the Story Night Facebook page. Thank you to our volunteers and our volunteer coordinator, Natalia DiGiosa. Thank you so very much, Natalia. Thank you to our board of directors, our Story subscribers. Thank you to Jump and the crew for hosting us. And we can join Story Night January 28th for Rook, when Jodi will be back with you again. This, I think you've figured me out by now. I am way out of my element here tonight. You have been so incredibly kind. I wasn't sure about this Christmas, but this was pretty phenomenal. I have been far from family until tonight. Thank you for that. I do love you. My raging love affair in life is with the story, whatever the story is. And tonight, your stories have been phenomenal. There is really only one way to wrap this up. Neil?
George Prentice, ladies and gentlemen, amazing host. Thank you. Thank you. All right, one more. And now, by the way, I heard you all sing in 8675309. All right, you almost sang that louder than some of my songs, okay? This one you all know. It's been made incredibly famous since 1976. And please sing along, either part, all parts, every part. This is it. Where it began. Yes, thank you. I can't begin to know it, but then I know it's going strong. And when I heard, was it the spring? And the spring became the summer. Thank you. Who'd have believed you'd come along? Patty Finley, my stepmother, I adore you. Hands, let me see your hands, people. Hands, touching hands. It's not COVID anymore, touch them. Reaching out, that's right, hands. Touching me, touching you. Yeah, sweet Caroline. Thank you, the good times never seem so good. Been inclined to believe that never would, but now I look at the night and it don't seem so lonely, but we fill it up with only two. That's me and you. I'm sorry, sir. And when I hurt, hurt runs off my shoulder. but how could I hurt when holding you? Hands again. Warm. I know I'm saying warm, but put those hands out. Let's go. Touching warm. I want to see those hands, people. Come on. Reaching out. Thank you, sir. Touching me. Touching you. Yeah, sweet Caroline. The good times never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe it never would. Oh. Thank you so much, everybody. You've been so fabulous to me. Thank you for being your warm, gentle, loving selves. And I know it might have been your first time, but come back and see me. Sweet Caroline, the good times never seem so good. I can't hear you. I've been inclined to believe they never would. One more time. Sweet Caroline, hear it. The good times never seem so good. Sweet Caroline. Thank you so much. You've been fabulous. George Prentice, Story Nights. Jump. Thank you.